I am Ashish Anand, founder of Whirl. As some of you might be knowing, Whirl is an agri-fintech startup working in the arena of warehouse receipt finance. We have pioneered blockchain in India in the warehouse receipt finance industry. And today we have established quite a lot of presence in different parts of India, and we are helping thousands of farmers today in getting loans from the banks using blockchain's digital lending ecosystem through warehouse receipt finance. Today, we will talk about application of blockchain in warehousing. So, as we discussed that Whirl is already working using the blockchain technology, leveraging the blockchain technology in warehousing finance. So, this is an area which is very close to my heart, and I would like to give an introduction about what blockchain is, how we can use blockchain in different parts of warehousing, and also what are the benefits that accrue to the ecosystem. And please mind this word ecosystem. I will be using this a lot going forward. In so what is blockchain from that perspective? If I have to talk about blockchain, so before I talk about blockchain, let me talk about two different concepts in technology. And please excuse me for bringing technology here, but we cannot understand blockchain without understanding the technology behind it. So let's talk about how we typically interact with our computer system. Say, for example, I am customer of a bank, and I go to a bank and do my internet banking over the web portal of the bank, or on the mobile banking on the mobile app of the bank. Essentially, what is happening that I, as a customer, is accessing the server of the bank, and bank has put its data on the server. So that is what we are seeing on the left hand side, that essentially there are few people who are accessing one single common server between two parties, say for example, or four parties. So for example, when we are booking a railway ticket, we are actually accessing IRCTC's server, and the server has all the information which IRCTC did put over there about what are the availability in different trains on a different date. So this is called server client technology. Means every data is on the server. Other people only access this data or sometimes change that data. But the data remains on a server. It doesn't remain on my computer. It doesn't remain on the bank staff computer. It doesn't remain on IRCTC staff computer. So this is called client server technology. Now let me give you another example, and most of the people would be aware of this. Number of times you would have used your phone to transfer data, say for example, transfer a photo, transfer a music file or something like that to another person's phone directly using Bluetooth. So from my phone, I transfer some data to some other person's phone using Bluetooth. What that is? Direct device to device communication, right? Using Bluetooth at a small distance, we can transfer some small packet of data. But supposingly we had transferred a 5 GB file. We all know that Bluetooth typically doesn't work with this file size. So what we will have to do, we will have to send that file, say by email, or we can, because there are limitation on size in emails, we can send it through a Google Drive. So supposingly I have to send this presentation to you, all the students. So what I can do, that I can upload this presentation on a Google Drive and share the link with the class. And again, the class students, what they will do, they will go to the Google's system and download the file from there. So again, that is server to client. I uploaded to Google server, the students downloaded from Google server. But when you and your friends transfer data from one mobile phone to another mobile phone, what we did transfer from one computer directly to another computer, means if we think mobile is a computer, and the data got transferred. So this sort of connection, which has been prevalent for quite long, but has not been largely in industrial usage is called peer-to-peer technology. One person to another person, one computer to another computer, one device to another device, without having anything in between. So this is what peer-to-peer technology is known as. And from this peer-to-peer technology came a new technology revolution around a decade back, around 14 years back, when Bitcoin was launched as a application of blockchain technology. So what is blockchain technology essentially? So blockchain technology is essentially a technology in which two or more computers, like we have the node A, B, C, D, E, and that there can be thousands and lakhs of nodes. They are speaking to each other without having a server. So when they are speaking to each other without having a server, how do we ensure that everybody has? Because see, when I uploaded Google on my data on Google Drive and you download it, you know that this data transfer is complete. But if there are so many nodes, how they have the completeness of data, how they ensure that? So there are technology solutions for that. So this is what peer-to-peer technology is, and using this, a concept called blockchain came into picture. Let's see what is blockchain. So first of all, as you can see in this diagram, there is a central server in between connecting everything. But in the second diagram, there is nothing in between. There is no central party. The people, the communication, the devices, the machines, they talk to each other on their own. Think of this as the left-hand side is like a, say, you can say monarchy. You have a king, every data is with the king, and all the subjects speak to and listen from that king. Think of the other side as democracy. People speak to each other, exchange thought from each other, and based on that, they arrive at a conclusion. And that conclusion is what the final form of data is. So think from this perspective that you have a centralized version and a decentralized version. A democracy is a decentralized ecosystem. There is no central entity in between, typically. So that is what a blockchain is. It's a decentralized system. And please look at the purple words because those are the critical words here. To a decentralized system to do what? To do something, right? Why we need a system to perform certain activities, to record transactions. And record transaction between various parties, not between one party or two party, but between various parties. This is very important, various parties, and that is why we will come to understand later that how it works. And the most important part, because it is decentralized without need of a third party. So for example, if I am giving you loan and you are returning it back to me after say 30 days, then essentially a peer-to-peer transaction has taken place without a third party. There was no bank involved if I gave you a loan of say 1 lakh rupee to one of the students here. But if I go to my bank, deposit my money 1 lakh rupee there, and you go to the bank and withdraw that 1 lakh rupee as a loan from the bank. So what we did, we involved a third party. So the work can happen without third party and with third party. So before advent of blockchain, especially in the enterprise world, it was very difficult to perform transactions between various parties without a third party. Why? Because there was no control. Why third party is needed? Because people need someone to validate the data. Someone to say that, yeah, I have validated this data is correct. That is why we need third party, right? So when I give you 1 lakh rupees, supposedly, so you should, and if you are taking money from me, it should not happen that this money doesn't belong to me and I gave it to you, right? So bank verifies that this money belongs to me because I made the deposit and you took it from the bank. Similarly, if supposedly we purchase certain shares from the market. So because this is an NISM course, I'm sure everybody will be aware of how the equity market is. Now, in the equity market, as you all know, there is an entity called DMAT authority. So, like NSDL. So, a company issue shares. I, me, you, everybody buy those shares, sell those shares. Where the record is settled, it is settled with the depository, the NSDL and CSDL of the world. Who are they? They are third parties. So, a company issues shares, and some people like me and you buy. So essentially, what is the transaction taking place? Transaction is taking place between the company and the buyers and sellers of the shares. But in between, there is a centralized party called depository, who confirms that this company had issued this share. This share belongs to someone else, and he is selling this. What blockchain does, that blockchain removes the need of this sort of a centralized depository. With blockchain, a company can issue shares on blockchain and someone can buy on blockchain. There is no need for this third party. But that is what blockchain has done. It has created a decentralized system to record transactions between various parties without need of a third party. Now, how does that recording of transactions take place? So there are various ways, and one of the most popular ways to do that is called smart contracts. Now, being NISM students, number of you would have an idea about what are contracts, etc. So think of smart contracts as executable contracts. For example, there are two parties, an importer and an exporter. So today, if I am an exporter from India and if I'm selling to a party outside of India, what will happen? I will first ask the party, the importer, to give me a letter of credit. Go to a bank, give me a letter of credit, otherwise, no trust. How do I ensure that that party will pay to me after I have sent the goods to, say, for example, a country somewhere in Europe, where if they don't pay, recovery will be very, very difficult process. So for that, what we typically rely upon, we rely upon a third party called a bank to provide a letter of credit. Now, what if we can do something like this, that the importer puts the money in an escrow account, not in India, in a global escrow account. And when I export the goods and the goods are shipped, at that point of time, when the bill of lading is created, and at that point of time, if there is an information which goes to the importer that yes, this person has shipped the goods, and automatically from the escrow account to my bank account, the money comes. So we both are secure, the importer and exporter. So this is one example of the smart contract. I gave previous example of company issued shares and different retail investors buying those shares. Today we require repository on blockchain. The company can put all the data on blockchain, and without it is on blockchain, it means it is transparent. How? I will talk about that later. So anybody can buy without thinking that the company is issuing fake shares. So that is where smart contracts come into picture, and we will talk about that later. I don't want to have a technical discussion, but these points are important. We will skip this part, what is blockchain. I already explained that. And in blockchain, one important distinction is, which is also very important part of blockchain, that today some of you might be from the accounting background, some of you might have seen Tally, for example, or other accounting software, or even say, let's talk about Excel or Google Sheet, etc. What happens? We make a data, we make an entry into the system, then we make another entry. Then we make third, fourth, fifth, and sixth entries going on. Supposingly, I delete entry number 2, unless and until there is a technical audit of the system, we will never come to know that there was a entry number 2 here, because there were 7 entries supposedly. Entry number 2 got deleted, so 6 entries are remaining. Unless and until we have seen that earlier, we go compare earlier versions, we try to take help of technology to recover the deleted data, nobody will be any wiser. And that is where we needed a centralized third party to say and certify no, data is correct. The problem was That what if the centralized third party is compromised? If someone has hacked their system, if someone is an employee of the centralized third party is acting in connivance with one of the parties, what happens in those scenarios? Again, unless and until an audit is conducted, we will never come to. What blockchain does? Blockchain doesn't work on that fashion. In blockchain, there is no question of deletion. It's an add-only database. Means I can make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I want to delete number 2, for that, what I will have to do, because how the blockchain is constructed, that when the first entry happens, the first entry is recorded. When the second entry takes place, the first and second entry are put together in. So I will not go into technology part of it, but somehow they are clubbed together. I will say that is what is as reference here, but I will just say they are clubbed together. So when entry number 3 is created, it takes the reference back to entry number 1 and entry number 2 both. Similarly, when the entry number 4 will be created, it will have reference. So when the transaction will be recorded, it will record two things. It will record the transaction number 4, and it will also record transaction number reference to transaction number 3 to 1. So supposingly we are after 7 and we want to delete number 2, what we will have to do? We'll have to delete the 7th entry, 6th entry, 5th entry, 4th entry, 3rd entry, and then only 2nd entry we can delete. That is how the blockchain system works, because the 7th entry has a reference to entry number 2. So and the 3rd entry has, 4th entry has, 5th entry has, 6th entry has, 7th entry has. All of them have reference to these points. Entry number 2. So when we have reference to entry number 2, we cannot delete just entry like number 2. It will not it will not make any change. The entry now, last entry has reference to entry. So that's why this data is created in, that is what we call block and chain. So there are group of transactions. We first put them together, we create a block, and we add them one by one and create a chain of transactions. If we have to change the transaction somewhere in between, we will have to undo the entire chain up to that point. Say, for example, now we have 3 lakhs data set and we want to delete entry number 7. We will have to start from 3 lakh and we will have to come to entry number 7. All these 2,99,993 entries will have to be reversed. Think of this, that how much computation power that will take. And that's where the blockchain's property of immutability means we cannot change this comes, because the cost of doing that is so high that it is not economically viable to do that even for a hacker. And that's why it's a very strong and very secure system, that the data is secured, immutable, and also because if you remember, it is peer-to-peer, there is no server. It means the data is lying on all the peers. If there are 1,000 blockchain nodes, peers connected to a blockchain, the same data remains on all 1,000 parties. I can delete 1 party, 2 party, 3 party data, etc. But I cannot delete all the 1,000 or at least 500 means majority data. That will be very, as a hacker, that is very difficult task for me. So in a server where I have only one place of attack as a hacker, on a blockchain network, there are so many places which have to be compromised before the data can be compromised. There are so many transactions to be reversed before one single transaction can be reversed. And that is what makes blockchain a very, very secure system.